Bob, how do you think the Doctor would have responded to Woolsey and vice versa? Do you think they would have gotten along or been mortal enemies?
I think they would have thought each would have thought the other was an asshole. So that's a funny question. I've never really thought of it that way, but it would be a delightful challenge to have tried to play a scene between the two of them. I suspect that the Doctor would have found the old Woolsey what's the word? A functionary, an unctuous toady of sorts. But the more enlightened Woolsey facing the more enlightened Doctor would have been interesting, because I suspect that early on in the encounter, perhaps their worst qualities would come out with each other, because they would see, in some level, they might see a little bit of their former selves in each other to an extent. So, but maybe they would have reached an agreement by then, simply because they both grew so much as characters. I mean, arguably, Woolsey grew not quite as much as the Doctor, but grew a great deal, considering it happened in a very compressed time. He really had quite an arc.
He really did, and I mean, it was one of those where with the Doctor, it was like, okay, hopefully we'll have 7 years on television. We're going to go through with this, and we're going to make a meal out of this character and the situations that he's in. And then with Woolsey, it kind of wasn't necessarily planned that way. But when you have the right creative team that goes out and creates an honest portrayal with the actor, an honest portrayal of a character, as long as those pieces are in place, there's no reason it can't grow into anything.
And really great writers in television write to the strengths of the actor they have cast. So even if they had an initial vision and the actor presents that, then they start and I think what happened when Joe Malazzi and Paul Muley took me out to dinner that night, they saw, first of all, they talked about my work on Voyager and all that, right. But they saw something in me, some colors that they went, oh, I'd like to see some of those colors show up in this character we've created. I think it's possible to use little bits of that, whatever. In other words, they saw something in me, or maybe it was simply that they liked me enough that they wanted to have me around again. But they had the idea of how to, redeem the character. And in perhaps the thing, I knew that Voyager was going to be a good job longevity-wise when I took it, but I didn't see. When I took that job, I had no idea that I was in for the ride of my life, that the character was going to develop like that. I didn't understand.
Well, Life
Star
Signs.
Trek well enough.
Just watch Life Signs, and that's where it all happens. So.
But I didn't, at the beginning, I didn't understand that I had gotten the great role of the show. I assumed that I didn't know enough about Star Trek, that the artificial intelligence character was going to be, potentially was a breakout character. I thought, well, Spock was a Vulcan. We have a Vulcan character. Actually, Spock was half Vulcan. We had a full Vulcan character. And as wonderful an actor as Tim Russ was, that sort of constrained his character development more. He either had to play the Vulcan all the time, or have the 3 or 4 episodes over the 7 years where it's like, Tuvok goes crazy.
Yeah,
for
something
whatever
happens
reason.
to him. But you're the lens through which stories of humanity can be told, because you're a mirror holding the mirror up to the audience, to us.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't get that until about halfway into the first season, that I have a much better role than I thought I did. And really, when the producer put his arm around me, after shooting 5 episodes, and said, you are going to be the most popular character on the show, and I looked at him like he was crazy. I was flattered, but I totally didn't believe it. And I thought, I don't get it. I don't see it. But he already got it. He already saw the potential there, or knew from creating it that I didn't. So the funny thing about it is that if I had known the character was going to be that great, it would have just, psyched me out for my audition, and I probably wouldn't have done as well. And also with respect to Atlantis, that was just a one-shot guest star that they just handed me. I had no expectation of it going anywhere. So I guess the kind of lesson as an actor is like, it's better not to know up front that this is going to be a great role, because you'll simply, you won't psych yourself out of doing your best work at the audition, and you'll simply treat it like anything else. And then once you have it, it just exceeds your expectations by far.
It's a fair point. Carlos, was there a storyline or an angle of Woolsey that you wish you had gotten a chance to explore?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking Carlos a question. How stupid am I? You are relating. You are.
Right.
I was
Carlos wants
Carlos.
to know.
I was waiting for Carlos's answer to that very interesting question. I was secretly shown the TV movie that we understood we were going to get to make after Atlantis that never happened, and I'm not going to say. First of all, I only read it once. I don't remember, but it was really great, and I was very hopeful that we would get to go beyond where the end of the 5th episode, sitting in San Francisco Bay. I was really hoping that we would go farther. As far as specific things, I don't know. I mean, he really becomes a leader in the finale. I mean, you see him as kind of a fully formed leader. So of course I would love to have taken that to the next level, rather than have to, because I spent the whole season kind of brick by brick getting built into that leader. It would have been nice to see the kind of leader he became on an ongoing basis, having had the past that he had, being the age I was. He's never going to be the rough and ready guy, because he's a guy in his late 50s at that time. So it would have been fun to get, once he really clicked as a leader, to have, done anything else, to have done any other stories would have been fun. I can't give you a specific story I would love to have done, simply to just continue having really mastered the leadership skills, which I only did, in that last episode.
Absolutely. Let me see here. Scotty0709. If you were asked, would you say yes to appearing on Star Trek Picard?
We get asked this question an awful lot. I really enjoyed the first season of Star Trek Picard. It's wonderful to see Patrick doing that character again. I loved all of certainly Jerry Ryan and 7 of 9, and Jonathan Del Arco, and of course seeing Frakes and Marina Sirtis and Brent Spiner, to see all of these actors that I adore as people, first of all, and colleagues, but to see them again bring their characters back to life with so much history, that added weight to their performances, was just great. It was great fun. So of course it would be fun to revisit the character. The Doctor, of course, theoretically should not age in the same way that Data shouldn't age, so there would be a certain amount of digital correction. But of course, I also played the character's programmer, who would age in real time. So I think I'm having watched how exciting it was to see those guys get to revisit their iconic characters, makes you, of course, think about, that would be fun. I also, I every time I hear about the possibility of something happening in the Stargate world again, it would be fun to revisit that character as well. It always is. You want to get away from it for a while. You want to put a few years behind you and do other things, because it doesn't make sense to revisit something. But when the audience has a passion for not only a particular saga of entertainment, a science fiction franchise, if you will, but just a character. They love seeing an actor. I mean, everybody loves to see Kelsey Grammer in Frasier, and if he plays Frasier again, who's not going to want to see that?
No,
so
that's absolutely true.
I get it that It's funny when they were talking about a reboot of the Wonder Years, it'll never happen now because the reboot is an African American family, which I think is a great idea. But there was some talk. I had little feelers put out about, hey, if it were to come back, and I started thinking, what would Mr. Cutlip be doing now? And I decided that it would be great because Mr. Cutlip was an unmarried man. If Mr. Cutlip had come out and now it was in a gay marriage, had a partner,
it's not impossible,
and owned like like a little restaurant or a pizza parlor where all the kids of the present generation hung out. So Mr. Cutlip had gone from being a very carefully guarded and hidden closeted homosexual in the late 60s, and was now a sort of freewheeling life is a very happy man because he was so profoundly unhappy back then. That's what I thought would have been a great move for that character.
I loved the Wonder Years growing up, and that character was always terrific. So there are certain hallmarks of television, and you were very lucky to be in 3 of them. So
yeah, I agree. I feel blessed.
Thank you for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving us a thumbs up with that like button. It will encourage the algorithm to show this to other Stargate fans. Also, please consider sending this to a fellow Stargate friend. I also want to invite you to subscribe to future episodes right here on YouTube. We are a live show, so changes are likely to happen all the time. And if you plan on joining us live, you'll want to be the first to know. Be sure to visit dialthegate.com for the complete guest schedule so you'll know when to join us and ask your very own questions to our guests. See you on the other side.